Welcome, everyone. In last week's program, we heard from the late Justice Scalia, who said that constitutional structure was really much more important than the Bill of Rights. If you watch that clip, many of you may be saying, well, is that really true? And so today, what we want to do is to look at a particular issue, namely search and seizure. And many people are at least paying attention to this issue since the search of the former president's residence at Mar-a-Lago. And what we're going to see is the interconnection between structure and the Bill of Rights.
The Baker Brief with law professor John Baker. Your weekly dispatch from the battlefield of ideas.
People don't really realize how important the issue of search and seizure was in leading up to our revolution in 1776. It actually began in Boston in 1761 with the dispute over the writs of assistance. Now, I've covered this issue in greater detail in an earlier program, but we got to go and at least summarize it. The problem with the writs of assistance is that they were, quote, general warrants. They did not specify exactly what had to be searched, nor who was going to do it. In other words, it was unlimited search power. Well, why did they do that? Why just ignore the writs? Well, the warrant requirement was a requirement of common law, and we were being governed then still as a colony and therefore under the common law. When this writ was applied, the person in Boston who was supposed to do it was James Otis. He was an employee of the British government, which was the government at the time. But he saw it as so outrageous that he quit his position and went into court and argued against what he was supposed to be enforcing. Now, he, along with a young John Adams who was there, they lost. But the importance of that was never lost. That is, it is reflected in the Fourth Amendment, which we will read shortly. So after all of that, it takes several years of building in terms of the revolution. But when it comes, people are very concerned about, quote, rights. And they had learned that through experience and through reading Blackstone, commentaries on the laws of England. But then later came, and we'll go into, how do you actually structure a government to take care of this? But for right now, let's just look and read the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Now, that is great detail, designed to limit the power of the federal government. At the time, the Bill of Rights did not apply to the states. This is all about citizen fear of this new federal government. This was pushed especially by the anti-federalists who didn't trust this new centralized government. Now, what it reflects in great detail is the principle of the common law that Otis emphasized, that a man's home is his castle. Why was it put that way? Well, princes or other nobility had the troops to defend their homes, but ordinary people did not. And the point was the law, the common law, and later the Fourth Amendment, that is supposed to be a strong protection of the home, because the basic unit of society back then was certainly understood to be the family. It was a governing unit. That is a sense that is sometimes completely ignored today. And part of it is due to the fact that people assume because we have the Fourth Amendment and several other provisions that are protections against law enforcement and courts, that it must be that the federal government has a lot of criminal power. No, it doesn't. The whole point was the main power left to the states was the police power. What does the police power mean? The way to shape the politics of the place comes from the word polis, the city. That's the background. But over time, we drift away from it. And it's time that we understood what are the basics. The basics is, first of all, that the federal government does not have a great deal of federal criminal power. But guess what? They've been able to extend it tremendously. What I'm going to explain in the next program is how the manipulation of the structural protections have allowed the growth of federal criminal law and therefore the growth of the ability to issue search warrants basically whenever federal agencies wish to do so. Please join me for the next program.
To ensure your continued access to the Baker Brief, please note our additional channels listed below. And remember to like and subscribe using the bell icon.